right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of another bourbon show. Tonight we are going to be drinking a classic. Let's call it that. And I'm just going to let Ryan. I'm going to let you do the introduction because this is another one that Ryan's providing. So,
It it
what are
is
we drinking
something
tonight?
it is something I've provided. I've never had it, so this will be my first time actually trying it. I've seen it out at mainly independent liquor stores for a long time, but it is a Luxco product, and it is David Nicholson 1843. So this is as Dan said, a classic Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, 100 proof, 50% alcohol. I think it's classified as a wheated bourbon, high wheat, apparently. Haven't had it, so I'm not sure. Bottled by David Nicholson Distillery in St. Louis, Missouri. So it's a hometown drink, so to speak, for you guys. Other than
Let's
that,
see if-
I don't know a bunch about it outside of that. I got it for free by a liquor store owner who had a bunch of it, and I might have gotten him some whiskey he hadn't been able to get before, so he gave me a bottle of this for free.
So I just looked it up because I did not know this. It's technically an undisclosed mash bill, but they think it is 68% corn, 20% wheat, 10% malted barley, and I guess 2% rye then. 2% something else.
Yeah.
But I don't, I would guess that last. No, it doesn't list 2%. So it's 98%. This is not even 100% whiskey. I'm just kidding. It's
Well,
either 70% 2010 or 68 20 10 2. I don't fucking know.
we picked up their 2% and put that extra into our pick.
Because it's 108%.
Oh, it's 108. That's right. I forgot exactly
Yeah.
what the percentage was. I just knew it was over 100. We're stealing left and right.
Yeah,
Steve,
so
I have a feeling you're gonna love this label, dude.
Yeah, this looks like if you were at a meeting and somebody was like, "All right, what's the label design we're gonna go with?" And then the guy who was gonna do label design forgot how to do it, that he had to do it, and so then he just scribbled it on a napkin that he had with him. This is, I mean, if the 1843 wasn't in gold, I don't think this would be like the most technically a label I've ever seen. The fact that they added that as like a flourish and like David Nicholson and some kind of script, other than that, there's not much going on. It's just like it might as well be bourbon brand bourbon, on the side of it. It's to me, this one is the bare minimum for what it can be, essentially. So I am coming in at a 1.
Wow.
oh,
Oh wow.
I just don't think
ouch.
I don't think there was any creativity that went into it really. There's no character to it, I would say. The character that you get from it is just derived from the fact that it's devoid of character in a way. So it's a very weird one to rate. I think, yeah, it's just very minimal. It's technically a label. This is a definition of a 1, in my opinion.
But it's distinctive.
That is true. You can recognize it, but that can be for bad reasons. I think the label itself is pretty bad. I think that it does do a job of standing out. This is the argument this is the flip side of the coin. Sometimes you don't want to stand out in a bad way. You could stand out in a lot of ways that'd be weird, like put a big swastika on your bottle. It's going to stand out. You know what I mean? So I think this is one of those cases where it's there is some publicity that is bad. I just don't think it looks very good. I don't think a lot of thought went into it. I think it's mainly, hopefully it's the juice that stands out.
Yeah.
Yeah. About $25 a bottle, I think. I've never bought one, but yeah, I think it's in
Sounds
the
about right.
$20-$25 range. Kind of looks like a bottle that'd be like in a background scene in Deadwood or something.
Yeah.
Kind of that old school medicine bottle look. But
I
this
know
is a
it's not.
classic. What'd you say?
Go ahead.
I said this is the bottle itself is a classic bottle. And in that, I mean, if you go to any big grocery store chain, they all have private label whiskeys on the bottom shelf, and this is the exact bottle they use. Or private label brandies. This is the exact bottle they use. So yeah, all around, I definitely think they're cutting some corners here.
So I know what I was going to say is that I know that it's not, but it would be super, super easy to convince me that that's a plastic bottle, right? Like if all I saw was, if you zoomed in tight to where it was just the label, I'd be like, oh, that's got to be a plastic bottle. 100% that's a plastic bottle. Why would
Yeah.
they spend the money on glass if that's the label? But
It
again,
actually-
I know it's not a plastic bottle.
It kind of looks like you can see a seam in it right now, based on how the light's hitting it. Even.
Yeah.
There, I mean, I don't know if you could see
There's the
that.
seam? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very visible seam as well.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the most expensive glass.
We can actually see a seam on the front side too.
No, yeah. Right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. And then, I will say pouring the glass. I really love pouring whiskey out of bottles like this, though. It's just easy and it feels cool. But it's overall the presentation isn't the best, but I hear good things about the liquor, so we'll see.
It's one of
Well,
those bottles you're like, am I going to fucking go blind from this?
you will not go blind from this. Up until recently, this was a Heaven Hill products. It was sourced from Heaven Hill. But then whenever Luxco opened up their own distillery, they started producing it there, of course. But there's a chance that there's still stock from Heaven Hill floating around.
This could be that.
Yeah.
This
This
was like 10 cases stacked high in a back room. The liquor store owner was like, here,
take this because
So-
I've been sitting on it for.
yeah.
I got a case deal on this 15 years ago, and I'm slowly going through the stock.
Yeah.
The perks
Got
of
it.
the job.
Yeah. There's also a black label of this one. Those are the only two versions of David Nicholson that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I think it's just those two.
So why don't we go ahead and figure out whether we like the actual whiskey.
Let's
Do it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Gotta admit,
Color
I
looks
like
a little-
the nose a
little-
lot.
Color's kind of medium, I'd say.
Like an
It's a little-
amber.
It
Yeah.
singes the nose hairs a little bit. There's a little bit of a burn to it.
I get sweetness and cherry
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
For me.
A little nutty.
That's weird too, because Ryan, I don't think you're used to having nuts on your nose.
Right.
Chin, yes.
Brian's just like, right,
Right.
indeed.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Spicier than I would have expected from the mash bill.
It is spicy. It's very spicy.
Yeah, you can do worse. That's my first reaction.
It's got some sweetness on the very front end. There's sweetness, then followed with a lot of spice, like peppery spice.
My vision is starting to fade a little bit.
A little bit. Right eye going blind.
Yeah.
Pretty oaky. Spicy and oaky. Maybe I'll start to get some other flavors as I drink more of it.
To me, that
Very
the
spicy.
very first flavor is like a really truly sugary sweetness, but it's just there for an instant, and then the spice really just takes over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think oaky and spicy is the description I would use for it too. And it's interesting how intense both of those can be at different points on the palate and the finish. And I think that this one is another one that stands out to me as it might be good to cook with too,
Mhm.
just because I think it has such strong notes to it that if you're just trying to inject some, whiskey flavor into whatever you're making, I think this would do a good job because it has notes that I think wouldn't go away from being incorporated with other ingredients. It may be good in cocktails too, because of that.
Yeah, I think I'd not expect it to be this spicy. I mean, I did read something about it where, this would be a good introduction for people who like rye, which I understand now, but I did read that it was more of a wheated bourbon, but it seems way more higher in rye than it does wheat.
But supposedly it's not.
I know. So who
Yeah.
knows?
Let me see if I can find another description. Mash bill. Yeah, there's actually no rye in it.
Really?
Yeah,
How is
every
that? How is that possible?
so every single place that mentions the mash bill is very clear that it is corn, wheat, barley. That's it. No rye. It's got a little bit of a hug, not a long, intense hug, but it exists.
Oh yeah.
Um, it lacks a finish, but for a $20 to $25 bottle, that's not unusual. It's not uncommon. Um, the only finish that I get is like the alcohol, not flavors.
Like an ethanol type.
Yeah.
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 It's not a finish. But it has like an aftertaste of oak still to me. And I think that this may be one of the oakiest ones we've had in a while.
Mhm.
Like until you go back to like the Jim Beam Black, I can't remember one that's been as it's just potent oak. I know that there's been oak and other stuff, but it's really, really potent to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very oaky.
Yeah,
But I do find oh,
this is one I could probably sip all night and not that I'm necessarily enjoying it like crazy, but it's just like, I'll have another pour. And then by the end of it, you're halfway down the bottle, like half in the bag.
Yeah.
That's a bottle. That's this type of bottle, which has a good place in a collection.
yes, it does. Um, long legs, lot, very long legs
Yep.
on my glass, which doesn't surprise me because it's got a dry finish and it seems somewhat acidic to me. Not like strongly acidic, but I'm getting some acidic in my throat and stomach specifically.
Feels like it'd be a
That
bad
reminds
one.
me of like a bourbon finished Cabernet, a little bit. Same principles, just all oak.
I think it'd be a
I don't know
bad
anything about Cabernet.
be a bad one to throw up. I think.
Yes, I would agree with that. It would not be a pleasant evacuation scenario.
Ugh. And blood in the stool, probably, on the back end.
What doesn't, Ryan?
That's true. That's a good point, dude.
Yeah.
So the point of the episode I
Oh,
wanted to talk about.
Your mic just like changed. Like you got way louder
Did
all of a
it?
sudden. Yeah.
That's weird. Is this better?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Yeah,
I don't know what
here,
happened. It's
I'll
very
turn it
weird.
down a little bit.
It's almost like the source
Yeah.
changed.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I have it on a book. Maybe it was tilted.
Huh. I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, go on.
Does help? Can you hear this at all? No?
No.
Okay, I was patting my mic. Um, the Barry finale.
Weird that didn't help. Weird that petting your
No.
mic didn't help. That's strange.
Yeah, that's usually step one in like the audio
Yeah.
engineer's guide.
Yeah, gotta pat it. So we've all watched the Barry finale,
We did.
Yeah.
and
Spoiler alert, I guess.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. If you don't want to be disappointed, just don't fucking watch it. By the way,
Stop in the season prior to the final season.
I would even
That's what I would say.
I would say stop at the end of season 2 because first 2 seasons were definitely that second season was the best. Remember the scene where he's fighting with the like the karate.
Was that season 2?
That was season 2, and the guy
Yeah.
and his daughter was like jumping on houses.
I would still recommend going through pretty much the whole thing because last season there was like the scene with like the dirt bikes, right? And I think that
Yeah.
was
Oh,
that
yeah.
was amazing. That was
Yeah,
an
that's
incredible. There were so many scenes in that that I'd never seen done before that I thought were really good. I basically, and even some of the episodes had some cool stuff in this final season. So I think I recommend everybody watching all of it, but it does, I don't know. One of my favorite shows of all time is Twin Peaks. And it's funny because Twin Peaks is, recently they did the Showtime like reboot, where there was like a third season, if you will, like miniseries. But really, up until then, it was 2 seasons. And even as somebody who loved the series, those 2 seasons, which were like 20 episodes apiece, roughly, I would have told you, all right, watch the full first season, and then basically you can skip almost all the second season, except for like the last 2 episodes. And a lot of people would say that. And so it's funny that, these short shows, relatively short shows, like a couple episodes per season for a couple seasons, you can love them. I think we'll all look back on Barry fondly. I love Twin Peaks, and yet you go, there's this section that I don't think is worth watching though.
Yeah.
Because it's like when you think about it, it's like, in the case of Twin Peaks, it's like half the fucking show.
Well, I can say that Twin Peaks are, for the most part, my favorite anatomy of women. Right? Like not consistently, but sometimes, but most of the time, right?
In case you guys forgot how old Dan was, he likes to remind you every once in a while.
Yeah. No, but like, I never watched the show Twin Peaks. I knew it existed, but I didn't watch it. Barry, I thought, was a really good series, except for the last season. I didn't like any. There were like 2 episodes of the last season that I really enjoyed. The rest I watched because I hoped that it would be as good as the first. I felt the first 3 seasons were really good.
Yeah.
But I was really let down by the entirety of the final season. I get it. I think that from like a production, filming, directorial, writing standpoint, it was really good, but it wasn't entertaining. And I'm the guy who focuses on like, entertain me. I don't give a shit if it's high quality or low quality. Fucking entertain me. And to me, it missed out on a lot of that for the entirety of the last season.
The high point of the season was the episode with Fred Armisen where Barry escapes prison. The podcast, that was the best episode of the season. And then everything else, it was just like, okay. And I think this did hurt Better Call Saul too, even though they had to do the time jump. But I think it's just such a cop out on writing and storytelling to just fast forward a narrative without any consideration for the audience. Like, all right, we're 8 years ahead now. He's got a kid that no one has a connection to because they've never seen the kid before in the series, and now Barry's a dad and he's religious. And then obviously he's got to go back to LA and then save his wife and kid. And it's just like, Sally's not a redeeming character, and I don't even know his son. Right?
Yep. And I want to throw out there that whole time, I thought that it was some sort of a dream sequence or like a coma sequence, that like he broke out of jail and like he ended up getting tased, and this was all like in his brain while he was like unconscious or something. I didn't think that it was real until the end of the show. I was always just like, is he dealing with his own, like, even getting killed at the end? I thought maybe that was like his subconscious, him dealing with his past, right? Like he's atoning for his sins by getting murdered, essentially. All to find out that, oh wait, no, there was this abrupt cut because that's what actually happened. And I think it actually makes it for a better story if it turns out that the final scene was him waking up in the hospital, like in the jail hospital. I think that would have been a cool ending. Yeah. And that those 4 episodes or whatever were actually his brain making sense of the past, his past. So
yep. Anyway. Or he wakes up in Jim Moss's garage and he never got out. And
yeah,
you don't know what's going to happen to him. Because Steven, I think you and I talked about this too, where that Jim Moss guy, the whole badass, a step ahead of everybody, and then he just lets Barry go.
Yeah.
Because he thinks Kusino was involved more than he actually was.
Yeah, that was weird. I actually went back and I rewound that a couple of times because I didn't get why that was such a huge missing piece to him. He was like aware of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he was aware that Barry gave that money to Gene. And he was so thorough about everything else. And he didn't trust Gene in the first place. So I don't get why he wouldn't have looked into that, why that was such a big moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With Barry saying that. Does that make any sense to you guys?
No.
Like why it was so important to him. He stopped what he was doing and was like, I got to go immediately to Gene's place. That to me was, and not only go to Gene's place, but hatch this whole thing where they were going to honeypot Gene into thinking he was working on a movie, to see if he would talk.
Yeah.
Like he came up with all that so quick, and it was just like, I didn't feel like it was that big of a revelation what Barry was talking about. It was also weird that Barry would even say that and like see Gene in his head while he was like delusional, but whatever, I'll accept that. But it was very weird that stopped him in his tracks. That scene and the whole season, I just feel like behind the scenes, something happened. Like they were rushed for some reason. They were told this had to be the last season, or somebody important was like going to step away and it would have changed everything for them to go on or whatever. It just felt like they contained like 2 seasons into this season, or they tried to.
You know what it is? Season 4 of Barry is the David Nicholson of labels. They fucking phoned it in.
Well, it's a tale of two shows, really, because, and Steven, you might have started Succession, but you see a finale. You see a finale that was like, that's how you fucking end a show. And then you see Barry and you're like, what the fuck were they thinking? I wish you were there for the finale at the same time.
Oh man, it was so good.
I want to talk about it with you, but I don't want to ruin it
so badly.
Well, I'll get there as soon as I can. Well, how about we rate this bottle? I'll go watch a fucking episode before bed. How about that? Is that fair? Is that a fair trade?
All right, I think that's fair. All right, who wants to go first? I'll go first if nobody else wants to.
No, you know what? I'd like to go first.
Please do.
All right, Kendall.
5.5. I think it's has a lot of similarities to me with Jim Beam. And honestly, for a lot of the stuff we talked about, for like what we would drink it for, I probably take Jim Beam over it most of the time. However, I think it is better, if that makes sense. I think that our 5.0 may be one that wins out here a little more often, but I'm giving a slight edge to this because I do think that it's more interesting on the nose and on the palate, which are the two most important. Palate by far most important, and then the finish or whatever, pretty much a wash with Jim Beam White Label. Very little. So honestly, I don't have much to say about it other than that. I do think it's one of the best we've had to cook with. Maybe I'll say that again because I just think that a lot of those notes stick around. Like even now, it's been a little while since I took a drink, but I still taste a little bit of oak. So it's kind of like I think we said this about Jim Beam as well, but it's almost like a bourbon mouthwash, you
Mhm.
know? So it's weird. It's a weird one. Um, but I think it's fine. You could do worse, like I said earlier. I was joking about it making me go blind.
So you said 5.5?
5.5, yeah.
Okay. Ryan, you want to go next or you want me to?
You can go.
Okay. I'm going to go with a 5.7. Very similar to Steven. But I really enjoy it, right? Like, to me, it's a perfect description for a $25 or less bourbon whiskey in that it's single dimensional, it's not fancy, it's not complex, but what it is tasty, right? Like, I enjoy that burst of sweetness right up front, immediately followed by spice with a complete and total lack of finish, right? Like it's simple. It's one characteristic, maybe two if you consider spicy and oaky. But it's either way, it's really simple, but it does taste good. For 25 bucks, I don't expect it to have a long finish. For 25 bucks, I don't expect it to be complex. For 25 bucks, I don't expect it to have a great nose. But for what it is, I'm happy to pay 25 bucks for it because it is really tasty. So I give it a 5.7, mostly because the flavors, like, okay, so that 5.7 is compared to Jim Beam White Label. And those 0.7 are based on the 20 proof higher and the strength of the flavors that I get from it compared to Jim Beam White Label. So I think that Stephen, you and I are probably about the same way. I just like it. I think I like it a smidge more than you. That's really what I'm getting at. So 5.7 for me, and that's why.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little higher than you guys. I'm gonna go with 6.1. And the reason I'm giving it a 6.1, I like the proof on it. I like that it's 50%. I do get similar, a similar vibe compared with Jim Beam, but it's definitely more complex outside the oak. That there is a lot of spice in it for apparently having no rye spice, which is interesting. A whiskey could be that spicy. Um, Having it at my bar and looking at it, I was hoping it was going to be one of those diamonds in the rough where sort of like a mellow corn is. I thought it was going to pack a bunch of flavor. Bottle kind of looks like shit, but the juice is really good.
Wait,
And
is
it's,
that like mellow corn? The bottle kind of looks like shit.
no, I meant like,
No,
no, that's not what,
obviously
Oh.
not.
no,
Oh,
that's
okay.
not what,
I thought it was a
no,
That
flavor
label's a
split there.
10.0, dick.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's a 10.0. But like,
All right.
diamond in the, mellow corn's what, 16, 17.99. It's not the best quality whiskey. I'm not talking about the label, but mellow corn is better than this. I would take a bottle of mellow corn over this any day of the week. But it's a sipper, man. You could just sip on it all day and I wouldn't get sick of it. I'm definitely not going to ever like really be in the mood to drink it, but it's, as I said earlier, it's just one of those good whiskeys to have on your bar, because if you're just looking to catch a little buzz, you don't want to drink something that tastes like shit, but you don't want to drink your super good whiskey, this is just something you could sip on all day and night. And it's got a good, 50% alcohol. It's got a little bit of a hug. Not too complex, but it's not too boring either. So yeah, I'm gonna go 6.1.
Yeah, I would say that it, like, nothing about it is boring. It's distinctive, right? Like, I don't I don't think that in a blind, I think you'd know, like, oh shit, that's gotta be David Nicholson 1843, right? Like, it's distinctive.
Yeah.
So
another brother showing